Alien Resurrection, people weren't huge fans of that film. But when I was younger, that was one of my favorite ones, simply because it was the newest, shiniest toy. And the effects were the ones that, the effects in that film were the most updated, and it gave you sort of the best visual display, even if it wasn't a story. Now, I've changed my tune on that. We all know the original Alien and Aliens are the best ones, and but I'm a fan of the David Fincher Special Edition Alien 3, too. So I just wonder with Return of the Jedi, what it is about that film particularly that people like the most. Because when I watch those 3 films, you can't get to the other 2 without the first one being Episode 4. But man, Empire Strikes Back is just, as a film, just such an amazing picture. I absolutely love that. Just love that movie. Okay, let's get to the spoiler section of the podcast. These aren't major spoilers. I'm not going to be giving away potentially plot details. I am going to be giving away some details of Rogue One. And, well, I'll just say that. If you don't want any spoilers beyond what you've seen in the trailers or heard me say on previous podcasts, then please, by all means, you can stop the podcast here, and thank you for checking out the podcast this week. Remember, you can always email me, talkshownerd@gmail.com, talkshownerd@gmail.com, and follow me on Twitter. I'll repeat this again. But for those that are leaving for the spoiler section, thanks for hanging out. For those that are hanging out for spoilers, let's go ahead and do it.
May the Force be with us.
All right, so I spent almost an entire podcast talking about whether or not we were going to have a crawl or we weren't going to have a crawl for Rogue One. I now have an answer, and I'm disappointed. We are not getting a crawl for Rogue One. It will open this, and I like the compromise because they are keeping the blue lettered A Long Time Ago in a Galaxy Far, Far Away. It will essentially start with that. But before I tell you what we're going to get, let me just briefly say I wanted a crawl because it is a prequel movie. It is a canon movie. It may not be a saga film as it relates to the Skywalker story in episodes 1 through 7 and soon 8, but it is still a film that has a direct impact on the other movies. So if I'm going to do a marathon and watch everything in order at some point down the line, and I include Rogue One after Episode 8, I'd like to have a crawl in there. Maybe, just maybe, when the Blu-ray comes out, they'll give us a crawl that we can choose. Oh, that would be kind of cool. So, what we are getting, there was a 20-minute preview of the film that took place in Mexico this week. And several fans have taken to the internet and given us a brief description of what happens. Now, if you've watched the trailer, you know that Rogue One is already doing something that the other Star Wars films haven't done before, and we have a flashback, major time jump at least, because you've seen a young Jyn Erso talking to her father, Galen Erso, who was crucial in the development of the Death Star. That was actually in the trailer itself, and I'll go ahead, for the sake of the conversation, I will play it for you again.
Jyn, whatever I do it to protect you. So you understand?
I understand.
Now, what I think that we are going to be getting in the movie is some time jumping. So the movie itself opens up with A Long Time Ago in a Galaxy Far, Far Away, and then it basically goes into an opening much like Guardians of the Galaxy, where the movie just begins. And it allegedly starts with the character played by Forrest Whitaker, Saw Gerrera, and a young Jyn Erso at the very beginning. So what it sounds like we're going to be getting is storytelling where we're going to see flashbacks, where we're going to be starting off with a young Jyn Erso, and then we're going to go into present day as it relates to the time when the film is taking place. And we're probably going to be revisiting Jyn's past, because there were like 3 different actresses that were cast to play Jyn. So there was Felicity Jones, and then two younger versions of Felicity. One, I think, who's supposed to be 9, and maybe like 12 or 13. So it sounds like in the film we're going to be jumping back and forth. But the movie opens with a young Jyn Erso and Saw Gerrera, and then the title logo will come up on the screen. A Rogue One, a Star Wars story, and then we're off and running. Also hearing that the one thing this movie is going to do, which has not been done in previous Star Wars movies, is that when we visit new planets, we'll actually get the name of the planet up on the screen. And very similar, probably most similar to what we've seen recently in the Star Trek films. And I'm cool with that. They want to make them different. They want to differentiate how these movies are different than the saga films. I'm cool with that. I just personally wish we still would have gotten that crawl. I don't think it would have taken it away from anything. I don't think you needed to add an episode number in it. You could have just said it, the crawl opens up, just Star Wars, and then, Rogue One, just like it did with A New Hope before they added the episode number to it. I'm going to reserve judgment until I see the film, and also pray that perhaps we get the option of having a crawl when we get the Blu-ray release. All right, one more thing that I wanted to share with you in the spoilers section. Pablo Hidalgo on Twitter. He is part of the story group. Talked about him at length before on the podcast. Was a massive fan of the Star Wars franchise back in the 90s. And when StarWars.com launched, he was actually hired and became now a part of the story group that is essentially in charge of making sure they keep all the stories in line and intact. So they're the ones that help develop these to make sure the canon across all of the different varieties that they get are all staying the same way. So Pablo takes to Twitter quite often, and he's a pretty funny dude, actually, if you follow him on Twitter. But, every once in a while, he'll offer little tidbits about things. And the stuff that isn't necessarily spoilers, but, for the sake of the podcast, I wanted to make sure I put it in that section. But he put up a photo from the Death Star scene in which all of the commanders and Tarkin and Vader were all in the Death Star. And I'm going to play you the audio. And essentially, actually, I'll read you exactly what Pablo wrote. And then I'll extrapolate a bit as we close the podcast out on what he meant. For any Star Wars fan, and more than likely you're going to be able to deduce what's going on here. But Pablo tweets out, an important scene worth a rewatch in the coming weeks for several reasons. This is the scene that Pablo was referring to.
Until this battle station is fully operational, we are vulnerable. The Rebel Alliance is too well equipped. They're more dangerous than you realize.
Dangerous to your Starfleet, Commander, not to this battle station.
The rebellion will continue to gain us support in the Imperial Senate.
The Imperial Senate will no longer be of any concern to us. I have just received word that the Emperor has dissolved the Council permanently. The last remnants of the old Republic have been swept away.
That's impossible. How will the Emperor maintain control without the bureaucracy?
The regional governors now have direct control over their territories. Fear will keep the local systems in line. Fear of this battle station.
And what of the rebellion? If the rebels have obtained a complete technical readout of this station, it is possible, however unlikely, that they might find a weakness and exploit it.
The plans you refer to will soon be back in our hands.
Any attack made by the rebels against this station would be a useless gesture, no matter what technical data they've obtained.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe. I suggest we use it.
Don't be too proud of this technological terror you've constructed. The ability to destroy a planet is insignificant next to the power of the Force.
Don't try to frighten us with your sorcerer's ways, Lord Vader. Your sad devotion to that ancient religion has not helped you conjure up the stolen data tapes, or given you clairvoyance enough to find the rebels' hidden fort.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
Enough of this. Vader, release him.
As you wish.
This bickering is pointless.
Now, Lord Vader will provide us with the location of the rebel fortress by the time this station is operational. We will then crush the rebellion with one swift stroke.
My nerd world.
So, you know what? I could have cut it off a lot earlier, but I really love that scene. So the key moments in there and what the photograph that Pablo tweeted out was, dangerous to your Starfleet commander, not to this battle station. So, to me, to extrapolate, obviously, after you see Rogue One, that's going to be referring to the battle that takes place in the film. And it also appears, if they follow the dialogue and if it ends up matching up, that they're not 100% sure why the rebels went and did what they did. So my speculation on the film is that some of the space battle that you've seen and the attacking of the shield generator over Scarif, and you've seen some footage of this with the X-wing fighters that are flying around and battling around a megastructure. I think that's going to end up being a diversion, and the Empire isn't going to be 100% sure exactly what they were trying to do while they're trying to steal the Death Star plans. Now, the other thing to note there, too, is that John Knoll, who's the special effects sort of guru of ILM, tweeted out that the big special effects moment of the film is something that hasn't been revealed yet. And everybody is pointing to Tarkin. And that they recreated Tarkin in CGI form, much in the same way they did Robert Downey Jr. in Civil War. We've talked about this in Captain America Civil War. We've talked about this in previous podcasts as well. And that you'll see a Tarkin, a realistic-looking, aged Tarkin, looking just like he did in A New Hope in Rogue One for a scene. And I, for one, cannot wait. Now I just have to make sure that I can go and get my tickets tonight. Good luck. If you want to share with me your experience buying tickets, or again, drop me an email, anything you'd like me to cover, comments about the podcast, always appreciate the feedback. talkshownerd@gmail.com. talkshownerd@gmail.com. And I actually think I put the email in the description in the podcast. So thank you so much for listening once again to the My Nerd World Star Wars podcast. I've been your host. I am your host, Jon Justice. You can check out my regular weekly show, Monday through Friday, on Twin Cities News Talk, twincitiesnewstalk.com. You can also download our podcast. Justice and Drew is the show. It's available on iTunes, iHeartMedia, the iHeart Radio app as well. Follow me on Twitter @JonJonJustice. Talk to you again next week for episode 68, and until then, good luck getting your tickets. Looking forward to Rogue One, and may the Force be with you always.
World.